Is it possible that the most advanced theories of modern physics, from the Big Bang to quantum singularity, were already encoded in a 1400-year-old text? Today we are opening the Encyclopedia of Existence, the first part of Imam Ali's first sermon in Nahj al-Balagha. This journey is designed for two perspectives: for those seeking peace through a simple interpretation, and for inquisitive minds looking for profound intellectual nourishment and the scientific logic behind ancient wisdom. Join us as we bridge the gap between faith and science to decode the source code of the universe.
Praise be to God, whom the speakers cannot sufficiently praise, whose bounties the calculators cannot number, and whose due the strivers cannot fulfill. He whom the highest aspirations of intellect cannot reach, and the deepest divings of genius cannot find.
Simple interpretation. In the chaos of today's world, where everything is measured by numbers, Imam Ali invites us to a pause. He suggests that true peace begins when we accept that we stand before a magnificence that the small vessel of our mind cannot contain. God is like an ocean of which we only see the shore. If you cannot count all your blessings or fully comprehend the divine, do not worry. This is not a sign of your weakness, but a sign of His infinite glory. It means you always have a support system that is greater than all your problems. Deep scientific interpretation. In this passage, Imam Ali addresses a logical deadlock in epistemology. By mentioning the inability of the deep divings of genius, he refers to the structural limitations of identifying systems. In modern mathematics, Gödel's incompleteness theorems prove that within any complex logical system, there are truths that cannot be proven or fully grasped using the tools of that same system. For an analytical mind, this mirrors the concept of a singularity in physics, a point where standard laws break down. Imam Ali emphasizes that the ultimate reality is not a mental model to be decoded, but the very fabric of existence itself.
He for whose description there is no limit, no existing definition, no numbered time, and no extended duration.
Simple interpretation. We often try to describe things by comparing them. He is like this, or it lasts that long. But Imam Ali explains that God is beyond our vocabulary. He has no expiry date and no physical borders. While we are always racing against time, God exists outside of it. He doesn't have a beginning or an end because He created the very concept of time. This means His mercy and presence are always available, never running out or reaching a limit. Deep scientific interpretation. This passage discusses the absoluteness of essence. In physics, everything in the observable universe is bound by space-time, the fourth dimension. However, Imam Ali describes a state of being that is non-dimensional. When he says no numbered time, he aligns with the modern scientific understanding that time is a relative property of the universe, not an absolute reality. To be a creator, one must logically exist outside the constraints of the system, time and space. This is what philosophers call transcendence. He is the necessary being whose attributes are identical to His essence, unlike creatures whose attributes are limited and added to them.
He created the creatures by His power, dispersed the winds by his mercy, and stabilized the shaking of his earth with rocky mountains.
Simple interpretation. After describing the greatness of God, Imam Ali shows us his work in nature. He reminds us that the wind, which cools our skin and carries life-giving rain, is a sign of God's mercy. And those massive, silent mountains, they aren't just for beauty. They act like anchors, keeping the earth steady for us to live on. Just as God stabilized the earth with mountains, He can stabilize your heart and life when you feel shaken by the storms of destiny. Deep scientific interpretation. This passage contains profound insights into geophysics and meteorology. The phrase, "dispersed the winds," alludes to the global atmospheric circulation essential for distributing heat and moisture. More strikingly, the word "wattada," meaning to drive in a peg or anchor, perfectly describes the role of mountains in isostasy. Modern geology reveals that mountains have deep roots extending into the Earth's mantle, acting as a stabilizing factor for the lithosphere. Imam Ali points to the Earth's Mayadan, trembling, which science confirms as the inherent instability of a spinning planet with a fluid interior. Without the crustal anchors of mountains, the surface would be far more turbulent.
The beginning of religion is His knowledge. The perfection of His knowledge is to believe in Him. The perfection of believing in Him is to realize His oneness. The perfection of realizing His oneness is to be sincere towards Him. And the perfection of sincerity towards Him is to deny Him attributes, because every attribute testifies that it is different from the described, and everything described testifies that it is different from the attribute.
Religion isn't just about rituals. It starts with understanding. Imam Ali explains that knowing God is like climbing a ladder. At first, you recognize Him, then you trust Him. But the highest point is sincerity. He says that if you think of God's qualities, like being powerful or kind, as something separate from Him, like a person wearing a coat, you haven't truly understood His unity. God doesn't have kindness. He is kindness. He is so pure and one that there is no gap between who He is and what He does. This passage is a masterclass in ontological monism. From the perspective of information theory and logic, any attribute, property, assigned to an object creates a duality, the object itself and the property it possesses. In science, we look for the fundamental unified theory where all forces merge into one. Imam Ali argues that if God has added attributes, He would be composed of parts, and anything composed requires a composer. Therefore, for God to be the ultimate singularity, His attributes must be identical to His essence. This mirrors the philosophical concept of simplicity of the absolute, where there is no internal complexity or division, a concept that aligns with the pursuit of a single, non-dual origin of the universe. But this is only the beginning of the journey. In this first part, we explored why human language falls short of praising Him. But did you know that any simple description of God might actually lead us further away from truly knowing Him? In our next video, part 2, we will dive into the most intellectually challenging part of this sermon. We will see how Imam Ali, with breathtaking logic, shatters the very boundaries of time and space. We will explore why pointing to God is a way of limiting Him, and how modern physics, through concepts like singularity and non-locality, is just now reaching the insights that were shared 1400 years ago. If you want to discover how God can be nowhere, yet everywhere, and how creation happened without a single movement or tool, like this video so the algorithm brings you part 2 as soon as it drops. Comment below. Do you think science will ever truly grasp a reality that exists outside of time and space? And subscribe now to join us in the next episode as we journey into the set theory and the physics of creation within Nahj al-Balagha. Stay tuned for part 2, where the way you understand numbers and existence will change forever.